Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Gold Coast Podcast. I am your guest, Eric Winegard, and I'm very excited. Very new clients are here today with a newer wellness business, and I'm very excited to talk about their business as well as their entrepreneurial journey. And Manny and Jennifer from Liquivida Wellness in Wellington, Florida. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Excited to dig into this business with you. I feel like we're in an era where more people are concerned about their health and their look more so than ever. Tell me a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Liquivida.
Absolutely. So Liquivida started with the intention of being all wellness. We're the first owner-operators to now have a Liquivida center that's both medical and wellness together. So we come from our traditional medicine background. I'm a nurse practitioner in cardiology. She's a nurse practitioner in urgent care and primary health care services. So we're taking what we know and combine it with the new concept of modern medicine, which is now, again, the wellness space. What we try to do and what we're trying to do successfully is really try to bridge that gap from what we see in traditional medicine, the pitfalls and struggles that we see in traditional medicine, and to try to combine that with what we can get within the wellness space. So when we opened up Liquivida, our intent is, again, to maintain that hybrid type of service where folks can still use traditional medicine effectively, but again, get the benefits of the preventative side of the wellness.
Okay, very cool. So do you guys do Botox?
We do. We
do both?
Absolutely.
Okay,
you
so
mean personally, or do we do the service?
No. I meant I want to give you a funny story on Botox. All right, let me give you a funny story. So my wife, about when I met her 6 years ago, she was doing all these things to her face. At the time, to me, they were things, and I was just so like, oh, I can't believe you do these things. I was so against it. And she eventually started telling me, hey, look at your friends. Like, look how, they're looking, they're aging. And I was like, no, I'm not aging. And then she started pointing things out, and I was like, oh my God, I look so old. So anyway, she got me on retinol was the first thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you condone of that or not, but that was the first thing, was like a skincare routine. And then I started doing Botox, and I saw this dramatic difference. And now I'm hooked. Now I'm looking at myself in the mirror. Literally right now, I think it's time to go back. So, I'm a big believer in a lot of your products.
Yeah. There's a lot of things you can do from a holistic standpoint. Even with Botox, like I have clients that come in all the time and they say, oh, I don't want to do Botox. I don't want to look like this or look like that. And the idea truly is to look like a restored or slightly youthful version of yourself. It's not really to change, your image, whether you want to look frozen or you want to soften what's there, but it's truly about looking and feeling your best and allowing yourself to age gracefully. So whatever it is that bothers you, and there's so many ways you can do that, but there's never a need to overdo it. You just have to know and do the right services and use the right products. So
yeah. Would you? Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's no difference than dressing well, right? Tell folks, listen, if you have the opportunity to dress well, it makes you feel good. Why not? So the same thing when it comes to your skincare and the way you present yourself.
I agree. So I'm a big. So we're all in business, right? And when I dress like this, and I have my nice watch on, I have my nice car. Just so you know, I'm the least materialistic person in the world. Least, I don't care at all. But I look at it as it's marketing. Right? It's status and it's image. And whether I like it or not, when I dress well and I'm, well put together, people do respond to you differently.
Absolutely.
Vastly differently. So I look at Botox or all of these other options that we'll get into because I'd love to dig into them. I look at it as marketing. That's how I look at it.
well, you're taking care of yourself, and there's an energy that comes with that also. Like if you think about maybe your primary care providers that you've seen routinely, like if somebody's trying to educate you on healthier eating or lifestyle and they're 400 pounds and struggling to breathe and get up and examine you, like you're going to think twice about what they're recommending, right? Versus somebody that looks the part. Like we try to always lead by example, you know?
Yeah.
But it's funny you're bringing that up because most folks will say something like Botox things, oh, superficial, but it's not. You just set a great example. You're using it for marketing, right? You want to make sure you market well. You
Yeah.
have folks that are maybe having relationship problems. Yeah, you want to impress your partner. So again, there's so many reasons as to why the wellness space is beneficial. Is multifaceted in that sense. Very
Yeah.
cool.
You know what the other piece is? It's also functionality standpoint. Like you can get treatments for migraines, you can get trigger point injections, you can treat the soles of the feet. You can there's so much off label you can do with it too.
Yeah. So these guys are, do you guys follow Valuetainment at all? Do you ever follow Patrick Bet-David?
No.
Unfortunately.
No.
Just
The biggest probably business podcast in the country. They're just a couple high ups from there. That's all. They're just saying hi. But cool people I can connect you guys with. Great networking. So tell me, all right, so let's take, all right. A lot of my friends are mid-40s men, obviously. I'm mid-40s men. And a lot of them, and I'm talking about the man. I'm being selfish right now. I apologize. Okay. All right. Because I think a lot of my friends are very resistant to a lot of these things. Like when I tell them I'm on testosterone, they're like, dude, you got to get off the steroids, bro. That's not healthy. And I'm like, or I tell them I'm on Botox and they're like, what's gotten into you? What would you say to the mid-40s man who looks like crap, feels like crap, but for whatever reason has kind of like a stigma against, because I was that guy 4 or 5 years ago. What would your pitch be to
And
that?
we get that a lot. To be honest with you, we get that a lot. In fact, I had a conversation this morning with a female who came in and was talking about her husband and still very reluctant with starting on those kind of therapies. And I tell folks, it's in something my wife already mentioned, is you have the opportunity to feel your best. Why not take advantage of it?
Yeah.
Regardless of where you are in your age, right? How you age, you want to age gracefully, but why not age happy? So if you had the choice of living your life happy up until the point where you're not, or living the rest of your life, the last 20 years, being unhappy, sedentary, not being able to be productive, not being able to be interactive with your wife or social, you would choose option A. You would want to be the best person up until you're not living anymore. Yeah. And we have the options to do that. So you can take care of things like fatigue, tiredness, poor sexual function. All those things can be addressed. So as a man, why not? Why not be at your best? Why not feel good again? I'll give you an example. And I hate using myself as an example, but I think it's kind of cool to bring up. Several years ago, and I hit my 40s a couple years back, my wife was always telling me, why are you always napping? You're always napping. And she gets mad at me. And I told her, honey, I'm not napping. I'm just relaxing.
With my eyes closed.
I'm just taking a break. But then I started realizing in hindsight, after several arguments, I'm like, you know what? Why is she telling me this? It's because she's noticing that I am napping more than I used to. And why am I doing that? So you know what? I got my hormones checked. I realized, there's an opportunity for myself to get optimized. This is when I started changing my mindset. As you mentioned before, being the stubborn people that we are sometimes, I changed my mindset to say, you know what? I can feel my best. I have the tools necessary. Let me go ahead and treat myself accordingly. I started doing that, and man, I haven't napped since 2021.
Now, was it the testosterone?
It was a
TRT?
combination of testosterone, yeah. Testosterone was there. My diet had to be adjusted quite a bit as well, so I can get rid of some of that oxidative stress with my cholesterol. So I adjusted my cholesterol, I worked on my blood pressure, and then with my TRT now being up to par, man, I feel great. No more complaints of napping.
You know what my wife told me today? I want to get your answer on this. She told me she's been conditioning me for 5 years. And I'm like, what you mean you've been conditioning me? She goes, well, I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, usually what I'll do is I'll say something about somebody else, about things they should or shouldn't do, and then get you to agree with it. She goes, that's how I condition you. So she has strategically conditioned me over the years. Like she would say, you take the nap thing was a real thing. Yeah. I felt the urge to nap usually around 2 p.m. And sometimes I'd go in the car and get like a little 15-minute nap. Now I don't need a nap anymore.
Yeah, these are also things I'm very passionate about because you also see the same with women. So when I started out my journey in the wellness arena, in full transparency, I went for the aesthetics. I was done with COVID. I said, I want something fun, youthful. And here I landed at this wellness center. And the trouble was that they were seeing women for hormone therapy, which anybody that knows me back when I was doing my master's, that was the one area I could care less about because I thought they have specialists for that. It doesn't seem exciting. until I myself started going through those changes and recognizing what that means, having hormone optimization. And I was like, I need to know everything there is about it. So these women were coming in, they were complaining of brain fog, decreased libido, weight changes, even though they've been sticking through the same routine, playing pickleball 6 days a week, counting calories, like just midsection weight gain. So many things that you couldn't quite put a label on, right? You can't just pull labs and say, oh, this is why you're experiencing these symptoms. They're very, what we call in medicine, subjective symptoms, things that you just tell me, and I have to take that verbatim and try to figure out, what that is. So those are actual signs of perimenopause or sometimes menopause, which is basically perimenopause is that shift in hormones that happens as we're aging for women as we get closer to menopause. You can start as early as your mid-30s, believe it or not, for women. So these women that start to experience those symptoms, it is in fact menopause. And how much you have to kind of work in and whether it's supplementing with estrogen or progesterone or testosterone, which women also take, everybody's going to be individual, but men go through the same exact thing. Just that testosterone being your primary hormone, you need a little bit more. So the men range between 600 and 1200 for total testosterone, right? You and Manny could have the same 600 range. You may feel fantastic. Manny may have to be closer to 900. As long as you are, from a medical standpoint, being taken care of and looked after and you're safe, your lab values are coming back great, you're feeling good, there's no side effects, that's really what happens. And so what you're doing is you're just helping to restore where you were maybe 5-10 years back. It's not about chasing youth. It's about going after function to make sure that you're, again, optimized.
Yeah.
And that's really a lot of the mistakes. So unfortunate for us, there's a lot of places, like on every corner, you see 2, 3, 4 med spas now. Testosterone is the biggest thing. Peptides is the biggest thing. These are actual medications still. So it makes a big difference where you're going, who's managing your care. Like we go to the gym and I cringe when we ask, because we'll have people come up to us often. And we're like, okay, well, who's doing your testosterone therapy? Because it's obvious you take it, the way you speak and what have you. And they say, oh, I have a friend who has a friend who has a buddy. And I'm like, does that not freak you out? Like to know, you don't know where you're getting it from. And there's so much you see in the medical community of things that go just horrible because they don't have the proper oversight, which is scary, right? But then you have women that are okay with being on birth control, which is literally shutting down your system to avoid whatever issues you have, whether it's heavy cycles, weight gain, depression, like there's so many things that can happen with it, but you want to question hormones that you actually have from when you're born. Like it's so crazy to me, but we've been conditioned in society to think that things are bad for us when they're really not. And then you get into the insurance portion, because insurance truly is there to make money. They don't make money when we are healthy and well. They make money when we're unwell, and they can kind of cash in on our services. I don't know if I can say that or not, but I said it. Hopefully we don't get banned.
We all know this.
But, and then that's why we are where we are now, is because our healthcare system having all the gaps, in traditional medicine, there's so much that's, so many flaws with it. So now people are feeling like empowered. They have no choice but to take full advantage of what they have access to. And they're going in for nutritional IV therapies, vitamins, hormones, peptides, because that's really the only way. We're exposed to so much day in and day out. You have to just stay healthy and be optimized. God forbid something happens to you, you want to be able to bounce back, without feeling like we saw the perfect example with COVID. People that were taking care of themselves, that were, healthy in lifestyle and eating, they did better than somebody that maybe had some comorbidities, and weren't really taking care of themselves, but only went in to see their providers when they had an issue and they needed those, medications or whatnot. Which is sad. Like you don't ever want to get to that point to say, oh, I need something drastic to happen before I decide to make changes. Yeah. So it's realizing just that you have those options and opportunities, and it's just about finding providers that align with who you are. Not anything to, beyond the extreme, but again, just to keep you optimized and, the healthiest version.
Can I tell you a funny testosterone story?
Of course.
So my wife connected me with this guy. He was a gym owner, but his wife owned a wellness clinic. And she goes, just go talk to him and just do your research. I said, okay. So I talked to him, and he's like, he told me about testosterone and, testosterone replacement therapy. And I told him, I'm like, look, I don't have low T. I go, I know I've gained some weight. I'm like, I know that, I'm a little lethargic and I'm napping, et cetera. But I can't have low T. I want to, do the, what with my wife every single day. I go, my sex drive was very high. And he goes, well, just go get your blood work done, right? So I went and I got my blood work done, and it came back, and this was at 40 or 41 years old, whatever the numbers are. It was like 213, which is
Down.
Unfortunately, common.
very low, very low. And it was really eye-opening to me. And then so I started the therapy, and I had to have a sit down with my wife. Because I said, babe, I go, my this drive that I have has gone even higher. I go, so,
Be ready, baby.
I'm like, so listen, when I say I'm ready, I need you to be ready with me here. They said it's going to level off in a couple months, but right now it's not level. But it did level off and normalized. But I had to have a serious conversation with her about it.
Of course. Of course.
But those are good problems to have.
Yeah.
Those are good problems to have.
No, for sure. Yeah, I'd rather have that than
Yeah.
Under desire. For sure.
And it's like, as people age, there's this myth that's like, oh, I'm 40s, I should be feeling this way. I'm in my 50s, I should look this way. And, it's people almost state it with like kind of a disappointment, but no, you don't have to live that way. There's nothing that says you can't be your best self. Shoot, I want to be in my 90s still, I don't know about pop, lock, and dropping, but
Trying at least.
at least a thought.
Probably get like a quarter way down. You know what I'm saying?
That'll be one of the podcasts they do.
We'll redo the podcast in 50 years and we'll see how you do.
But it's funny.
No,
it's
and
funny you're bringing that up.
Yeah.
So ahead.
No, fire away.
I was
please.
going to say, so take it to a step further, and especially going on a conversation like TRT, and a lot of guys again, same thing, similar presentation. They'll come in, they'll get their labs checked, but the one important factor, especially what we try to emphasize here with our services, is that yes, we identify on paper you have low testosterone, but sometimes there are other factors that play in as to what leads into low testosterone. It may not always be just because the testicles not producing enough testosterone. It could be other factors that be contributing. So it's very important to the audience to understand that it's not just the number we're treating, it's we're treating the patient. So it's very just like the conversation I had this lady this morning. She has to come in, bring her husband. We'll do a full workup. And I always tell folks, listen, we do a very comprehensive cardiometabolic workup to include a very comprehensive lab. I even do an EKG at the office. We have echocardiograms, ultrasound studies. We have the whole gamut. And then from there, we can identify if there's real, true indicators or risk factors that are leading into your reason as to why your testosterone is low. And if we can treat that, great, because now we're treating the underlying cause. If there's nothing to treat, then awesome. Then we can go ahead and just provide you with the TRT, because ultimately you need the replacement anyway.
Okay.
So it's nice to understand that it's not just treating the number, it's treating the patient.
Yeah, so unpack this a little for me. So I keep hearing cardiology. How is the heart involved with all this?
That's awesome.
Pretty
I'm
fascinating.
happy you're bringing that up. So the cool thing about how cardiology and metabolic health plays into this is that those symptoms that you're talking about, the fatigue, the tiredness, the loss of strength, the inability to lose weight, the inability to maintain muscle mass, those are early indicators of cardiovascular disease. Why is that? Because you're talking about three main components. One, signs of insulin resistance, which back in the day we called that diabetes or prediabetes, right? Signs of insulin resistance, chronic inflammation, and poor energy system, right? Talking about the mitochondria itself not producing enough energy to give you what you need to fire and produce enough fuel for your activities. Once you start seeing those endpoints, those are early signs of cardiovascular disease. Endothelial dysfunction is a big one that I talk about. What is endothelial dysfunction, you're probably asking? That is the lining of the artery. The lining of the artery is responsible for producing something called nitric oxide. Without nitric oxide, we can't do much. Arteries don't dilate, they lose their vascular tone, men start experiencing erectile dysfunction, all those things become a problem. Again, early indications of arteries not doing their job, and then down the road can lead into things like hypertension, obesity, cardiovascular health, et cetera, et cetera. So instead of waiting for the big markers, the big red flags to start hitting you in the face, here in the wellness space, we can identify those early signs. So those early signs down the road, if not treated, can lead into cardiovascular dysfunction. That's why it's important to make sure you tie that in there. So what do? We use advanced cardiovascular studies. So we use the same studies that our cardiologists use. Unfortunately, they wait maybe a little bit too long to implement that, but we can identify those early markers even on their EKG, even in your echocardiogram, which is the ultrasound study of your heart that paints that picture of your anatomy. You can start seeing those things. I tell folks, if I walk into this office right now, I don't have to be a plumber, but if I see a stain up there, what do you say? It's got to be a leak.
Yeah.
Right. So same thing. You see that EKG, you start seeing those early signs of changes. You don't just ignore it. You got to say, hey, listen, I see something. It's coming up. So same thing with picking up early ventricular hypertrophy, early diastolic dysfunction. These are terms that, again, identify early dysfunction of the arteries, early dysfunction of the heart muscle that can ultimately lead into heart disease. So why do I put in cardiology into it? It's because it falls in line to that same preventative care. If you prevent cardiovascular disease, you're ultimately doing the same thing for the individual, capturing those early risk factors that ultimately are very similar in symptoms that we see when it comes to hormone imbalance.
Fascinating.
I know it's a lot of information.
No.
That's how we blend it. And you have to blend it that way because, to make point on some of the things he was stating, when you're working with traditional medicine and insurance, there's only certain things you can do, right? You've heard it 1,000 times. Even you go in for something as simple as labs, you got to come back and do a lab appointment to go over that. God forbid if you go in with more than 1 or 2 issues at a time, you got to make another appointment to come back and talk about that second or third issue. It's very segmented, and a lot of times outside of the waiting can be very frustrating, for the individual. So the things that are needed or that need to be addressed, but you have to wait this, extended amount of time to have that. And then when you're going into centers like ours, a medical wellness center, you have the ability to target all of that in one visit, outside of getting to know your providers on a more personal level, because you kind of take away that ceiling, if you will, of we can only do this today because of A, B, and C. Though we combine insurance with some of those things, like your studies or whatnot, but say, the treatment is going to be for metabolic optimization, we got to add a couple of peptides in addition to the testosterone therapy, for example, we can play with that, if you will, a little bit better under that model versus something like insurance, which wouldn't ever cover something like peptides.
Yeah, you hear it all the time, Eric. Guys get their labs, you look great, but then you talk to them, they don't sound great. There's something brewing there. So just because your labs are in range doesn't mean that you feel good. Doesn't mean you're presenting a certain way. So it's more than just looking at the labs. You really have to paint the entire picture. So again, she mentioned before about subjective information, but we try to use more objective information, things that we can actually review. So those same studies that we're referring to that are very costly in the private sector, why not cover it through the insurance? Why not bring that together? Use traditional medicine. Let's cover those expensive tests with your insurance so it alleviates a little bit of stress out of your pocket, and use those funds effectively when you need them for your wellness considerations.
Are other wellness companies, and this is, are they tying this cardiology aspect into
I
it?
believe we're the first.
Now, are you the first, or is Liquivida? Is it the brand, or is it Manny and Jennifer?
So it's Manny and Jennifer, but we did talk to the CEO when we first opened up our site in Wellington. So Sam Tejada, he's the former CEO of Liquivida. He was fantastic during his initial orientation with us, and he had the opportunity to talk to us, kind of interviewing back and forth. He sat us down, and when he talked to us about our vision with the site, obviously we continue to push his vision with continuing the concept of treating underlying disease. But I took it a step further, and I said, listen, why don't we just exactly what we talked about, putting the traditional concept with the wellness modern medicine and see how it runs through it. So he was very open with the idea, and it was fantastic. He said it was a great idea. Go ahead and do your pilot program. So we're kind of running our pilot program here at the Wellington area. We put it in contract that we can do it this way, and we are the first Liquivida to operate in such fashion.
Yeah, so this is great information for me and my company to help you guys too. I mean, what a differentiator for sure. Let me ask you a question. Of course, I'm being very selfish here, talking about myself, right?
Okay.
You want an appointment?
No, maybe because all right, man, you guys are gonna make me cry. No, I'm not gonna cry. But everything you're saying,
You start crying, I start crying.
I'm just like, damn, is he talking to me? But something that I've really struggled with, even with testosterone, like I used to be known to be the guy. If you said, "Oh, do you know who Eric Winegard is?" They would say, "Yeah, the jacked, muscular, athletic guy." Like that was me, right? I was the quarterback of the football team. I was a great basketball player. Played varsity basketball and as early as ninth grade. And so I went into the military. I looked incredible. I mean, I looked like, I was him. You know what I mean? And then I got into the professional world. And then once I got into the professional world in my mid-20s, I really just kind of got sucked into the sales world culture. And that world is work hard, play hard. And I wasn't really working out hard for a while. I was just so focused on making money. And I grew up very poor, so making money was a big deal to me. Long story short, every excuse in the book, I went from being 209 pounds, I don't want to say shredded, but probably 10% body fat. Is that considered shredded? I don't know. And then all of a sudden, 15 years later, I'm 284 pounds. And, you just don't realize, a few pounds a year. And it's all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh. So I got on TRT a few years ago and I was able to get my weight down to, I'm about 250 now. But I still feel like my body is a little resistant to weight loss. And I feel like there's something, because let me also tell you this. I do a lot of fasting. Fasting is great for me. Like right now I'm fasted and I actually prefer it. I feel more energetic when I do it. So I can go, I actually don't think I overeat. I feel like there's something metabolically or chemically wrong with me. I actually think I might undereat a little bit. Is that a possibility? You think there's something wrong with my gut or something?
To answer your question effectively with just a few information you provided me just now, fasting is only good for short term.
Okay.
So fasting is great. I love fasting. It's great for targeting short-term insulin resistance. But when I say short-term, I mean it. Less than 3 months, and then you got to get off it. You can't be on it for too long. Some individuals can thrive on it and do well on it, but very few folks can be on it a long time and live that lifestyle and get the outcomes that you want. So the things that I'm hearing is probably likelihood that you're not the best for long-term fasting. You need to put yourself in a position where your body can respond better in utilizing its fuel effectively. The reason why you do fasting is to kind of shock your body temporarily to start tapping into fat storage immediately. But when you lose that effectiveness, you can't stay on it. You got to go back to, again, eating healthy, eating balanced. I tell folks to stick to a Mediterranean diet. But I think ultimately maybe you're holding on to the fasting concept a little bit too long.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is all free info I'm getting. Okay, interesting. The challenge I have with those, I feel great. So that's my struggle, right? So it's if I consume, whatever in the morning, whatever a healthy breakfast is, eggs and fruit. Is that a healthy breakfast?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Depends on the kind of eggs.
I knew he was saying that.
Is there hollandaise sauce? Bacon? But my challenge is the second I eat, I don't have the same energy.
Yeah, so food selection is important, and you have to learn your body to really kind of select the right foods.
Okay.
I think ultimately, I'll tell you just like I tell everybody else, you should get a very good comprehensive workup to see exactly what you're looking at. It's the same thing if you reverse it on me, right? If I tell you I'm happy with my business, things are going well, but then you look at my finances and say, Manny, you're getting worse every year. You got to do something different. Even though I feel a certain way, it's the numbers, the outcomes is not really portraying what I want to be doing. Okay. So you have to really kind of understand that the market's going to change. You need to understand your body's also changing too. So those changes have to continue to occur. It's not a one-size-fit process for everyone, nor is it a one-size-fits process for the span of your life. You really have to start making those adjustments. So the way you were in your 20s, you can't respond that same way or hope to expect to respond that way when you're in your 40s or in your 60s. Those, you have to make those changes. So I think getting a good understanding of your metabolism is important. And ironically, there's tools that we have in our facility that can help assess your metabolism. Have you heard about VO2 testing?
Very casually.
So back in the day when you were playing sports, VO2 testing was very popular, especially with like Olympians, elite athletes. It's the way to measure your aerobic capacity. Now we have that same measurement, but with the use of AI and all the research evidence that we've had over the last decades, right, 30 plus years of decades, we have information that we can put together and really kind of hone in on how to analyze your body's metabolism. Are you tapping into glucose early? Are you able to hit fat lipolysis, which is breakdown of fat for fuel storage when you're hitting that phase 2? So it goes into the breakdown of how your body uses its energy and where your deficient is. That information is crucial because now instead of me guessing, I think Eric might be experiencing this. It's, hey, I know. I know what's going on. It's because of the resistance of the insulin. It's because of you're not having too much reserve, meaning that you're not holding on to glucose early, you're going right into fat, et cetera, et cetera. So all those things can be analyzed with great detail using that breath analyzer test of the VO2 max. But that's just one way of doing it. You don't have to have that test. A lot of information can still come with conversation and knowing where you are. But I think you have to base it on that. More so on your biological age as opposed to how we feel chronologically,
I love it. One positive thing I will say about my health is I do, overall, I feel pretty good. I will say that. And I do believe a lot of it's because of the peptides I've been taking.
Oh, yeah, good. Which one are you on, by the way, if you don't mind me
I'm on
asking?
like 4. Yeah, so I want to talk about them. Ready? So CJC, 1295. I don't know if there's other CJCs. BPC 157. And I've been injecting it directly into my knee because I have a major arthritic issue. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Hopefully I am. Number 3, NAD. I feel amazing taking that. And then I can't remember what the other one was. But
Do you remember what it was for while you were taking it?
CJC, NAD. I think at one point I was taking testosterone, but I'm not taking that now. But I do feel a lot better on them, is what I'm saying.
Good. How long you been on them? More than a year?
4. No. No. That's my cognitive decline right there. We got to work on that.
We have
one.
a peptide for that, by the way.
I figured. 4 months.
Okay, good. That's great that you feel the results. Typically, it takes a little bit longer.
Okay.
But that's great. Yeah. So all those peptides are wonderful, and when it comes to peptide, you really what you're trying to do is amplify the signal for the mechanism. So a lot of folks think about using peptides as a drug, right? As a disease-modifying drug. So let's make sure we're clear. It's not. You don't use peptides to treat a disease or an end-game process, right? So if you're experiencing heart failure, hard to treat heart failure, you have to treat heart failure where it sits. What you're using those peptides for is to early prevention, right? So you're still talking about early disease management. So what you're doing is amplifying those signals of whatever mechanism you're trying to enhance. So in this case, you want to improve inflammation, you want to improve recovery. There's your PBC 157, which is now referred to as Pentadeca. Great peptide. So a great peptide to be on. It has a lot of good research to it. But again, utilizing more is for maintenance. The CJC is more of a growth hormone releasing peptide. Great one to be on. Again, the idea behind it is to improve your natural production of growth hormones. So you're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to sleep well. Your sleep has been going good since being on it?
Well, much better, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? I love it. So you can do all those things. So again, what you're doing is ensuring that you can produce more of those signals so you can naturally produce some of those enzymes that help produce the end game, which in this case would be production of more growth hormones.
You said something really interesting, and I'm trying to pick up on little things you're saying. You asked me how long I've been on them. Are you saying that the typical person on these, it usually takes a year to really notice the difference?
So it depends on the individual. If you are a heavy-duty aerobic athlete and you're constantly putting a lot of pounding on your joints, it'll take about 6 to 8 weeks to start seeing a difference. But if you don't have chronic pain all the time to really feel kind of difference, you really take a little bit longer, right? 4, maybe 6 months, depending on the individual. And also depends on how you're dosing it. You can dose it very aggressively and get the results a little bit sooner. But it also really depends on your body response.
Okay.
So if you are coming from a place where you're in a lot of pain, you're probably going to see the most amount of results right away because that pain reduction comes easier, right? You get to see it faster. If you want to see yourself get better or you want to perform better, again, those results may not necessarily be right away because you don't have necessarily much wiggle room to improve. If you're already feeling great at baseline, you're going to get back to baseline, right? So that's what it's happening here. So if you're in constant inflammation, you want to reduce the inflammation, then that's where you want to get to. Now, if you're preventing inflammation from taking place, then hard to feel better because it doesn't make it better. It just prevents the inflammation. Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like getting into a place of homeostasis versus, is that even the right? Probably not.
No, that's a great example. You're trying to balance it out.
Yeah.
So homeostasis is a nice way of saying, preventing oxidative stress, which at the cellular level, it's the wear and tear. We're trying to get rid of the wear and tear. But once the wear and tear is gone, now you want to sustain that so that there's less incident of it or the risk of it happening can be less. This is where your peptides come into play.
So I met my, kind of fascinating, right? I never knew who my father was. So I never really knew my genetics. And so I just always thought, I'm like, because I can get very muscular very easy. I mean, I'm not on this guy's level of genetics, but, you know, I'm closer to that than I am, you know, what do you call it? The ectomorph? What's the skinny one?
I forgot, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right? Right? Yeah. So, but I finally met my biological father like 8 years ago. Totally random, crazy story. And I met him and my two half brothers, and they are monsters. You know, they look like bodybuilders, but they're heavy set, and they're way heavier set than me. So I just know that after witnessing that, I know I have to be even more careful than the next person, because of my genetics, I do tend to get inflamed. Mm-hmm. So I really got to dig into this more.
Yeah. Well, the good news is guys like yourself who are typically more muscular than the average folks, you're going to respond very well. If you do the right things, if you put yourself on a good program, your response is going to be better. Because when you have more muscle, the response is nice.
Right.
It's those that are typically on the obese side or don't have a lot of muscle mass take a little bit longer to respond. But the folks who are typically more muscular, your body frame would be perfect.
Yeah.
You should be able to respond very well.
Is there a peptide out there that you two would say is a non-negotiable, everybody should get on it today?
What do you think?
Oh, that's a good one. Probably NAD comes to my mind as being one of the top ones. It just helps with cellular function, mitochondrial health, and that's what our body is made of, is cells. So that's a good one, as we know NAD tends to go down as we get older. Another one that is common, I'm drawing a blank on the one that.
Well, I'll give you an NAD story while you're thinking about it. My in-laws, by the way, my wife, her brother, her sister, they're a very attractive family. And, you know, the mother, to top it off, she was an esthetician her whole life. So the whole family's just been pretty, into their cosmetic efforts over the years. I don't even know what to call it, right? And they look great. And, I got an NAD. So she's someone that notices skin, is my point for telling you this, right? My mother-in-law. And I got on NAD, and she was living in upstate New York. They moved down here, but I got on FaceTime with her. I hadn't seen her probably in like a month or two, but I FaceTimed with her, and she goes like that. And I go, what? What's wrong? She goes, what are you taking? I go, what do you mean, what am I taking? She goes, your skin is glowing.
Good. Yeah.
And I said, I go, the only thing that's different is NAD. And, I didn't immediately recognize it. Yeah. Right? Because it probably was gradual, but anytime I am very consistent with it, that's always the reaction. So I'm a great testimonial for NAD. Did you think of the other one?
So in regards to peptides, there's a lot of cool peptides, but I always have to speak in what I do in practice. So the game changer of wellness has always been the GLP-1s. And GLP-1s, even back in the day, were always treating diabetes. It was a disease-modifying medication. And now over the years, you start to see it slowly transition to where it is right now. So we went from the GLP-1s, now it's the GLP-2s, and now we have this brand new concept of the GLP-3s where we start to tap into different several pathways of mechanisms. So it's not just slowing down your gut. It's not just tapping into your appetite suppressant mechanisms, but it's actually improving your metabolism. So retatrutide is a very interesting peptide. It is still in the investigational stages right now of this process to getting approved FDA-wise. But I got to tell you, I think that's going to be the game changer moving forward. You're talking about the next generation of peptides, one that I think that'll be hands down probably the most popular, most effective, not only because of his ideology, but what his other sister drugs have proven. If this one does what the other ones have done so far in medicine, it's going to change the world. You're talking about even micro dosing, right? So that we're talking about theoretical medicine right now because it's still not in practice, right? So we're still playing with the dosing. But right now, you can still treat diabetes, you can still treat insulin resistance, you can still treat obesity with the use of this peptide. But once you get to the position where you can start using as maintenance, you're talking about an everyday use, this is probably going to be the one.
Yeah, no, it's God, I don't want to make excuses, but I mean, clearly you look at people in this country in general.
Of course.
I mean,
It's in everything. I mean, in the foods we eat, the drinks we
Like a typical night out for a good time for most people will be heading out to the bar and having drinks. Do you know how much inflammation, sugar, calories is in just alcohol, period? Whether you're doing shots, whether I mean, it's kind of sad in a way, not to say that we've never gone out, for a night like such, but, ideally you want to limit all of those foods and drinks that cause the inflammation. So there's so much that we're exposed to, even in the breads. You go to places like Publix, like I tend to shop Trader Joe's, sometimes, Whole Foods, but you have to be very mindful of the foods that you're eating, because even in what we're eating, there's all kinds of just crap. And you see it more and more, how many times do they recall, oh, they had an outbreak of this or an outbreak of that, or, it's a little bit scary.
So the cool thing about this peptide, retatrutide, is that
It's not just targeting one pathway, it's targeting three. The basic pathway, which is what the original setting was for the Ozempic and the semaglutide, was to slow the gut down. Help great, right? You slow the gut down, less calories, you lose weight, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next step was to control insulin, right? Producing more insulin in response to glucose levels in the blood volume. Great, now I can control the blood sugars. Now it has appetite suppressant components to it, right? I can suppress the central nervous system so you don't have to eat as much. Okay, great, so I get happier faster when I'm eating. And then now you can actually improve your energy expenditure. That's called improving your metabolism. So you're talking about a slew of different pathways under one peptide roof that can really provide you the best longevity aspect. Like I said, I if it continues to show its efficacy the way it is right now, it's going to get approved in the near future, and hopefully, like I said, become one of the best disease-modifying medications out there.
I know it's tough to make a prediction, but what phase is it in? Do you know, is there a potential timeline? Like, is this something that could come out this year?
I don't know. It's in the last stages. It's stage 3 at this point, but I don't know exactly what that timeline looks like.
Okay.
When you take a look at tirzepatide, when it first came out, maybe 3 or 4 years before it finally got approved. So it takes a little bit of time. It's not as quickly as you think. And then even with the talk now, a lot of resistance still comes from, big pharma. So it's going to take a little bit of time. But
Sadly, if they don't have their hand in the pot, so to speak, there's a lot of resistance you come with. Like, who really wants to see it approved? You saw the same thing with the GLPs. When there was this whole thing about, these pharmacies being sued by the maker, essentially because they had the patent. So they didn't want them making any versions of that medicine. When we look at how many people were losing weight, how was their diabetes improving, how was their cholesterol improving, like the overall metabolic health was making progress. But, this company that had the patent out there was having an issue because essentially, they have that patent. They wanted the money to be made at their price, what they charge, which from a business standpoint, I get, but from just the standpoint of people thinking about actual humans that could benefit from this stuff, it's like, why limit somebody to things that could truly make them healthier, And it's what we see now. It's like so I'm in several professional networking groups on social media. And just the other day, I got in my inbox a picture, no lie, somebody checking out at the barbershop. They had a case of peptides. Barbershop. Do you know how much purchases? Like, you can get it over the counter. And we have people that hit us up all the time. Hey, I'm taking it from so-and-so, but I know you guys have it. Or can you get it for me? And it's like, you still need to come in for an evaluation. Like, we're not selling candy. We're not selling shakes, pops. Like, it's still medical. Like, it's so scary. So thinking back to just as medical providers, we have licenses we need to maintain. We have, clinical oversight. Like, we have, permits in place. We're doing things legit. So the notion of somebody being able to go and check out at a barbershop and say, hey, let me get this CJC 1295. It's like, what? And then the scarier part is, because I have heard it, you have patients that will inject and they'll have near-death experiences from an allergic reaction because Lord knows what's really in that peptides.
Like, who's checking for the efficacy or the potency or the ingredients? How easy is it to slap a Canva label on something and say, here's your, retatrutide?
Yeah, so everything she's saying is a byproduct of what's happening right now with Big Pharma, right? Everything is being super regulated. Things are moving very slowly when it comes to healthcare. So people do what they do. They try and find the easiest way to get there. They use, the simplest means to get to what they need, and for good reason, right? They all want to be healthy. Everybody wants to feel good. So it's understandable how the behavior is taking place. But, you're starting to see that dramatic exchange where the demand is there, the need is there medically, but we're still restricted with what we can do as far as practicing the way we want to practice.
Yeah.
So it goes back to even our brand. Part of why we decided to join in with Liquivida, and I said it to Manny the day that we went, we're interviewing them. They're interviewing us, but we're also interviewing them because we know as providers how we are, in transparent providers, honest, good-hearted. We're truly passionate about what we do, and we want a brand that's going to be representative of the same. And not only that, but also affordability. That's huge. I definitely have treated people in the elite, of the elite, just like I've treated others that don't have 2 dimes, in their pocket. And to me, like, your body parts are going to be no different if your net worth is in the millions or if your net worth is, a couple of thousand, And so I feel, me personally, and I think Manny can feel the same way, everybody needs access to what they need just to be healthy. Nobody's health should be better than somebody else's on account of what they don't or have access to. And so that's, a big driver. So it as much as it hurts me, to see that and to want to say, okay, well, I'll just give it to you because I'd rather give it to you than you go somewhere else and get it from the barbershop. Yeah. You still have to go about it the right way because you are providing medical care and service. I'm treating you and you're my patient. Something will happen to me if I am negligent, if I let something happen that, I could have avoided or, whatever, a mistake or, so when you think about these people just getting it from random folks, it's scary. It's scary. It's really disappointing because like Manny says, with good reason, they want to be healthier, but there's so little resources in that realm because as of right now, even though we have these med spas popping up all over the place, people look at it like a luxury. How many places can you go to and say, I can get an IV for $100, for example. Like people think it's like thousands of dollars just to be healthy, and it really shouldn't be that way. It costs you more on the back end to be sick, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it too, right? It's like, what's the opportunity lost in your health, right? It's not just, how much it costs you today, but, how much you spending on the back end. I had a heart condition a few years ago. Do you know much about atrial fibrillation?
Of course, yeah.
And I battled with it for about a decade, and I'm wondering now if my lack of health contributed to it. Long story short, it got to a point where it was so bad I had to get an ablation. Do you know what an ablation is?
Yeah, just in clear transparency, I treat everything from advanced cardiovascular disease with heart failure to arrhythmias to open heart surgery. We do everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay.
So I got you.
I'm sitting here like I'm the smart guy.
I got you, baby.
Do you know what an ablation is? Because I do. One of the worst parts, but fortunately.
How many ablations have you had?
Just one.
Perfect. Good.
And they said, in this procedure, I got a story about this procedure, but they said that if it doesn't come back within a year, there's a 99% chance it never comes back. And that was 4 years ago.
That's great. Yeah, that's a true statement.
Okay, good.
I've met very few. You're probably one of the fewest patients I've ever met that only simply just had one. I always have to ask, because many folks typically have one or two in their lifetime.
Yeah, it was, heart issues are no joke because I went into basically permanent AFib for about 9 months. A month after I was convinced to take the vaccine. I'm just going to throw that out there. So it only hit me maybe once a year. About every 12 months, I would have about a 48-hour bout of a regular heartbeat, and I'd feel really lethargic. And then it would just go away. And the doctors always said, just monitor it. So then when COVID happened, my doctor said, Eric, you're one of those guys that has an underlying condition. And if you get COVID, it could be really bad.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I was very anti-vaccine, but I was like, am I being a fool? And I ended up getting it, right? So I ended up getting the vaccine. One shot from, I can't remember who. And then a month later, my heart just coincidentally went into permanent atrial fibrillation. And I lived the next 9 months of my life were very depressing. You know, I remember I looked at my wife and said, "Babe, I don't want to live like this. Literally, this is awful." So I went and got the ablation done, and the ablation solved it. But I'm just you know, blessed to be healthy today.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But funny story about the ablation. Not funny, but yeah, it is kind of funny. They said to me, so they have to put a catheter in you. I've never had one, right? So they have the catheter in me. I can't even feel my lower body, right? It's totally numb, you know? And there's this beautiful, nice, you know, nurse, and she's so sweet to me and everything. And she was a black woman, right? I felt so bad for her because right next to us was like an old white lady or something, right? And she's like, this black nurse is racist. She won't take care of me. But I feel so bad for her because she's holding my thing, you know, me down there, and she's got the freaking catheter, and she's like, ma'am, I'm a little busy. I'm not ignoring you. And like, yeah, right? And this woman's just screaming at the top of her lungs that she's racist, right? And then I didn't feel anything. And then because they make you have to lay down flat for like, I think 4 hours or something like that. So you can't get up to go to the bathroom. So they had to keep injecting this freaking thing into my, you know what? And then the pain medication, whatever it was that they used to numb me down there, finally went away. And she had to come and do it again. And now I felt it, and it was awful. But here's the crazy story. They said to me, before you leave today, you have to go pee, right? You have to go pee. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I got up and I went to try to go to the bathroom, and it was the most excruciating thing in my life, you know? And I couldn't, you know, do it, right? Couldn't go to the bathroom. And the doctor said, well, if you can't pee, we're going to have to keep you. No, we're going to send you home with a pee bag.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, all right, let me
Figure this out.
You see what I'm saying? And my wife said she heard me just kind of screaming in there. I was like, you know, she was just kind of giggling at me a little bit, but yeah, no, I always wondered, you know, the AFib that kicked in. You know, I always wonder, was it that damn vaccine? You know?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of peace of mind. Again, I'm not pro-vaccine. I'm not against it. I'm just very neutral. But the vaccine or the virus, whatever you got exposed to first, typically what it did is it exposed an underlying problem you had. So in this case, we're talking about the electricity of the heart. You've had the electricity issue. It was never disturbing you up until now. Your system got disrupted with the vaccine and or virus, and it exposed the problem. So that's my theory behind it. You know, hard to say can it cause it, but I don't think there's a direct correlation with getting the virus and causing AFib. I think the AFib was basically already underlining, and it really got magnified and exposed with the virus and or vaccine. Okay. It was happening with a lot of folks. It wasn't just you.
Well, I think a small blessing in disguise, and once again, I'm not a vaccine expert at all. I don't claim, I'm not like one of these, I am a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not, but I don't have like a hard belief on it. Honestly, I almost just don't even want to know anymore, right? Yeah. And because the more you go down certain rabbit holes, the uglier things seem to get, right? And I kind of just want to live my life and, you know, put my faith in God that he's going to, you know, lead me and my family on the right path, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, but I believe in my research that one of the difficult things with the vaccine is that, you know, some of the conspiracy theorists were saying is that it basically injected a toxic metal into your body or something to that effect, right? And but I had to be on blood thinners for the next basically year and a half of my life. And what I also research is that to get bad metals out of your body, toxic metals, one of the ways is blood thinners. Mm-hmm. So I believe, I'm going to choose to believe this, is that it was actually God's way of curing my AFib. Because not only did I get, the only reason I had the ablation was because of potentially the the
virus.
vaccine, but then I was on blood thinners for the next year and a half, so I probably was able to weed out all of the toxic metals. So that's my story, and I'm going to stick with it.
I like that.
Whenever the AFib kicked in, and I can feel it, it feels like a fish flopping around in your chest. It's just kind of awkward feeling. And it's very scary when you can feel your heart. It really is. So it just produces like a natural amount of anxiety. And I can't describe how lethargic you feel. That's awful. It's hard to walk up the stairs.
Oh, yeah. So naturally, since we're talking about the physiology behind AFib, anytime someone goes into AFib, you lose that natural rhythm of the heart. Your overall ejection fraction, which is how we measure heart function, drops about 25%. So what you're explaining is physiologically correct.
Yeah.
Every time you're in AFib, it's almost like you're driving your car, and suddenly it starts to lose its power. That's what AFib does. It breaks the rhythm, and then you don't perfuse blood circulation effectively, and that's what you felt. So what you're experiencing is correct. That was the correct experience.
Over the years, what I would do is I kind of self-discovered this, but I would go to the gym. I would just walk on the incline treadmill or ride on the bike just a little bit. I don't know if this is like some crazy, self-medicating crazy thing I came up with. And then I would listen to like hip hop music that had like a rhythm and a beat. And I swear on my life, I would go home and my AFib was gone. I know that sounds crazy. Okay. Okay. Now you're going to die when I tell you this. So when the AFib kicked in permanently 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, it just wouldn't get, I said, let me try to go to the gym.
Wait a minute, you said you were walking while listening to the music?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was getting my heart rate up a little bit, and I was listening to something with a beat. And sometimes I would actually just listen to a heartbeat on YouTube. And I swear on my life.
I could see, yeah. Yeah, I could kind of see. I mean, it's, when you think about something like meditation and just kind of releasing or reducing anxiety, reducing stress.
So, yeah, maybe there's something.
Yeah, just if you genuinely, were enjoying the music and it's something relaxing for you, I could see that, how it can kind of down-regulate the
Now
heart.
watch.
Yeah.
Listen to this. This part is crazy. And I want to see your responses to this one because this is going to trip you out here. So I would go boxing. So when I went into permanent AFib, I said, let me go try a workout. And it wouldn't kick back in like it was in years prior. I said, let me go try a little harder. Let me go try a little harder. I swear on my life, I would get my heart rate up. I asked my wife, I said, I'm going to go hard as hell at the gym because I love working out. So I went to the gym and I did, 45-minute boxing workout. My heart rate would get up to 184. Every high, verge, you're going hard, for 3 minutes each round. The second my heart rate got up there and it came back down, the AFib stopped. So, and then the AFib would be good for a couple days, and then all of a sudden it would kick back in. I go, God damn it, I got to go get my heart rate up to 184. And I would go to the gym, get my heart rate all the way back up to 184. When it came back down, AFib stopped. Every single time. And I thought, I was like, I guess I just got to go do these crazy workouts for the rest of my life. So, but then eventually after about 3 or 4 months, that stopped working.
Yeah.
But I thought I was on to like some crazy medical marvel. You just got to go crazy in the gym and it comes back down. But there's got to be something to that, to where it was, it was finding its resting heart rate. So it's like it would go. So resting heart rate was off, and then it would ramp up, and then somehow it found itself on the way back down every time. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah, I tell folks so AFib, obviously we know it's an electrical problem. Mm-hmm. So I tell folks it's like if I turn on the light switch and all the light flickers, how long are you going to keep it flickering before you do something about it? In this case, yours was flickering for a very long time. What would be your natural response?
Change the light bulb.
Right, but that's the ablation. Turn it off. Start again. Oh, now it worked. It's gone. So that's what you were doing. You were you've turned on the light. You were in the AFib. You went to go work out, and then you did a metabolic reset or cardiovascular reset. You turned it off, and you hope to God, please, it goes away. turned it back on, and now it's not flickering anymore. And that's what you did. So it's very common. And what she describes basically is just you're tapping into that parasympathetic response. So there's two types of responses. You have the flight or flight, and you have the relaxation and recovery. If you hit that flight or flight hard, once you get done, you should transition effectively into the relaxation mode and recovery. And hopefully, you've done a very good job in that moments of time where you can reset that cardiovascular dysfunction, that electricity that was taking place there during that moment. So you kind of found a way temporarily just to reset the light. But eventually, you turned on the light, kept flickering over and over again, regardless of what you did with the switch, it just kept flickering. So you took the final step, which is replacing the light. That's the ablation part of it.
I thought I was onto something really cool.
Yeah. You were on something very cool. Yeah, you were. I mean, we tell folks same thing. When you're on AFib, we never go from medication to surgery right away. We treat first with medication. Sometimes folks their AFib maybe and it doesn't have to be medicated, right? It all depends on the risk factors. Yeah. So there's a score that tells you probably met the score before, that tells you must be on atrial fibrillation medication for a while, specifically the anticoagulations. But depending on the individual, you treat things as simple as possible before you go to the extreme. So if you can get away with reducing stress, taking part in relaxation techniques, maybe losing the weight, the hypertension, whatever could be contributing. Some people naturally just have AFib and the electricity problem is there, amplified with whatever happened, in your case situation, the use of the vaccination. Yeah. So where you are on that timeline really dictates your intervention at that point. But once you get to the point where nothing was working, you did the right thing. You have to get the ablation.
I did.
Or else you're going to feel miserable all the time.
Yeah.
And then it'll put you at risk for strokes, which nobody wants to have,
Yeah, God bless I didn't. Yeah, unless there's anything specific. Do you guys have anything else specific you want to talk about?
I was going to mention if you want to bring up your wonderful device, the Morpheus.
You sound like a salesman.
Well, she's a good salesman. I want to know what the Morpheus is.
She's very passionate about this device.
What's the Morpheus do?
Because I'm very passionate about holistic and comprehensive women's wellness. And one of the common areas that I was coming across were women, how we talked about the perimenopause changes for women or even menopause. And there was a lot of concerns surrounding libido. So that functionality, vaginal dryness, changes in laxity, sometimes urge incontinence. And so the Morpheus, the Empower is the name of the device. And it basically lends itself to it's a radiofrequency microneedling device that can help to restore that vaginal health and wellness. So sexual wellness is another piece that we really, that I'm very happy to, provide, because I feel like for women especially, where can you go and address those concerns? Who are you going to go and talk to?
And so for guys, it's very easy, right?
Yeah.
You fix the hormones, you fix the blood vessels, and your performance improves. But for women, it tends to be a little bit more complex.
Yeah, challenging. And so you think, the interesting thing is, what got me to that point, I was getting a lot of women that were coming from their OBGYNs. And they were like, my OBGYN says my hormones are fine. I'm within range. I don't know what's wrong, but I feel off. And in my head, me being as the provider, my specialty was adult medicine. And I've always done comprehensive wellness, but I've always left OBGYN to the specialist. That's what they studied for, decades. And I'm like, how is it possible that, these GYN providers are not looking at these symptoms? How is it possible they're telling them they're okay? Because clearly I'm seeing something is wrong with them. And so I had it in my head for the longest. And so naturally I started researching and doing conferences and webinars and courses and, came to that, which I love the device. It's amazing in what it can do to help restore some of that function and overall health. But the other piece of it is that from that provider standpoint, you have a GYN that learned how to do medicine a certain way. They've been in business 40, 50 years, and that model has been working for them. Why would you get out now and learn a different method? Similar to what we're seeing now with traditional and modern medicine. You have some places that will stand by just traditional medicine. Peptides don't work. Oh, it's just a phase. Oh, the GLPs. Oh, it's, all these theories. But again, they learned it this way. They have a booming practice that's working this way. What time, money, or effort, should they be putting into learning now a different way, simply because that's where the times are going now, as our healthcare system is kind of changing and evolving.
I love the technology. Why did they call this thing the Morpheus? Shouldn't they have called it maybe like the Cleopatra or something?
There's quite a few. So in mode, I know. Well, I like the Empower, but when you really so it's the Morpheus. So the device itself has several attachments. So the Morpheus 8, what my husband refers to, is really for any collagen building skin tightening. So that you can use it literally anywhere you have skin that you want to tighten. That's what you can use the radio frequency for, which is a Morpheus 8. When you get into vaginal health and wellness, you have like the Forma V, the V-Tone. So the Forma V is a radio frequency device that helps to heat up the tissue and build collagen. The V-Tone is going to be, if you think about Kegel exercises, it's like 1,000 times more powerful than what your brain can process for women to help with toning. So if you think about, like, I recently treated a 28-year-old, had a big baby, couldn't get through a workout without, peeing herself. Had a big baby, yeah. Whoa. Yeah, but couldn't get through the workout without, peeing herself. And it was something that she was very self-conscious. And she's like, I thought all this time I just had to kind of deal with it, and would wear panty liners like all day long. And I'm like, that's not normal. So it's those kind of issues that for me, I'm like, I have to research. Not that I went out and bought the machine after seeing her, but it's things like that that make me feel like I'm really doing a service.
Go get that Morpheus, girl. Go get it.
Yeah, and then you have the Morpheus 8V, V being for vaginal, which is microneedling into the vaginal canal. So helping, it's just a little bit more of, I don't want to say aggressive because we keep it comfortable, the procedure itself, but a little bit more aggressive and effective in helping to restore that collagen building. So helping again with the laxity and just to help. So women that have a lot of frequent, say, urinary tract infections or bacterial vaginosis, or the pH is off, aging, menopause, all that stuff. So it's very universal. So I love to kind of go in and educate folks on it, but where we still have sex as being a taboo for women almost. Like men, you can go on all day long and talk about, ED, there's nothing wrong with going in, I needed testosterone, I need this, but women, we tend to be a little bit more, I don't want to say discreet, but a little bit softer, and the approach has to be totally different. For me, myself, I've never enjoyed going to a male provider, because the way I look at it is, you don't have my body parts, how do you know exactly what I'm referring to? Yeah. I know you studied it, but it's different, right? It would be like me talking about my penis problems.
It's the lady in the streets.
Yeah, exactly.
Lady in the streets, you know what, in the sheets. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
So it's, we make it where we have a nice, safe space, comfortable, outside of leading by example and doing a lot of the therapies that we offer, our patients. I mean, I could do IVs daily if he could get me. But those sort of things. So that's really what we kind of drive on is, we created and joined into the brand because we were so passionate about what was offered, and we just saw it as an opportunity to optimize even that model. So as providers going in, and then there's the business piece, right? Who wants to do more in terms of seeing you succeed than yourself in your own business? So we're just very passionate.
Yeah, I'm very excited about your guys' business. I think you guys are awesome people, by the way. It's nice to meet you in person. You guys are unbelievable, and I get a great energy from you guys. And I'm very fascinated with your business, and I'm rooting for your success, and I want to help contribute to that success. So we're very excited. Do me a favor. One of you take the lead. Look into that camera. And if somebody's interested in learning about Liquivida in Wellington, let us know where they can find you.
So Liquivida Wellington, our website is liquivida.com/Wellington, and it's LIQUIVIDA. And then we're also on social media for TikTok and Instagram at Liquivida_Wellington.
Awesome. Everybody, thanks again for tuning in to the Gold Coast podcast. I'm your host, Eric Winegard. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.